Hello and welcome to the Emerald City Video Podcast. I'm Russ and this is Zach.
Hello.
And we're here today talking about Riverbend, which is a 1989 film from the director of a lot of things that you've heard of. Like the one that jumped right out at me was Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yes, yeah.
Um, but it's a drama with action. Like the big comparison I drew was like Rambo,
Yeah.
because it involves these Vietnam vets who go to this small town and essentially help the black community overthrow a deeply racist and kind of brutal sheriff
Yeah.
who's running the town with an iron fist. And it's one of those movies that I'd never heard of, but I'd
Yeah. Same.
seen as soon as I saw the VHS cover, I was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. We had it at the video store."
Yeah.
And it flew completely under my radar. Uh, what did you think, Z? Because you saw it before I did. You had a little more time to digest.
Yeah, I this is one of those that we got a press release sent to us because they're doing a restoration of it and doing a screening. And I we watched it in Vimeo, and I loved it. I There's a couple like it's a 1980 film, independent film. We This is obviously the prelude to we're talking to the person behind the restoration and the executive producer on the film, Valerie Vance, and Michael Dennis, who's doing the like working with on the restoration and the release and everything like that. He runs a thing called Reelblack Entertainment, and you can go on his YouTube. We'll have the links in the show notes or whatever. We have a very long conversation, very excellent, very fun conversation with them afterwards. But yeah, I dug this film. This film kind of if you've seen Rebel Ridge, which was one of my favorite films of, I guess it's last year. I always forget whether
I
when it
think,
was
yeah,
released. On Netflix, a military guy who kind of goes into a town and then shenanigans with the corrupt, slightly racist or not. In Rebel Ridge, it's a little whether he's racist or not. I think it's implied, but it's not like it is in this
right,
film, Bend, where it's set in 1966 in Georgia, in a small country town that is separated from everything, far away from Atlanta and everything like that. Basically, everybody's sharecroppers. And the civil rights movement has not reached this town in almost in any way, shape, and form until
right.
these three military, not convicts, but they're under guard under an MPs, and
Yeah,
they
they're going to be
break out.
court-martialed.
Yeah, they're going to be court-martialed. And basically, they come into this town, notice, get people talking. The people are talking to them about how there's rapes and there's murders and there's just pure corruption from this extraordinarily racist, like out of, I would say out of In the Heat of the Night, but like it's kind of beyond that. And it's there's no like coming to terms with this sheriff, played by the absolutely excellent Tony Frank in this. He is I would want to punch him in the face. I mean, he is so good at being horrible. And there's warning before the film. I assume it's going to be the film as well. But like the N word is thrown about in this film by the sheriff and by others, like it would have been in 1966 against
Yeah,
a bunch of black people who are trying to speak out against the institutional racism of small towns in,
yeah,
I don't want to say the South, everywhere. I mean, we had sundown
yeah,
towns in upstate New York and we had whatever. And so it is it's a film that kind of like reaches that, like you talking about like the other Fistenberger's films like American Ninja and stuff like that, where you have character Sam Quentin, which I love the character's name so much, played by Steve James, and he has fighting skills, and basically every opportunity we have like fight scenes which are really fantastic in that like late 80s early 90s kind of way. And but yeah, I love the film a lot. I can't wait till it comes out. I wish I could go to see, they're doing a screening out in California October 14th, and wish I could see it in person because there's going to be a whole bunch of people there from the
yeah.
film and kind of surrounding the film. But there's going to be a Kickstarter too. They haven't officially started it,
Mhm.
but to do a re-release Blu-ray for the first time because it's really just been kind of festering in VHS hell, unfortunately. So
Yeah, yeah, and also like it's not even like it got a big
yeah.
mainstream VHS release. Like the way they described it to us was that they
Mhm.
got like a printing and a half basically
Yeah.
on tape, and anybody who wanted to buy it for the last however many years, it's like the way to do that is go on eBay and pay $100 for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
And it didn't
uh,
have the, I mean, like they mentioned in this interview that obviously you'd be listening, they mentioned Spike Lee, Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing came out at the same time, but it wasn't like very clearly they weren't kind of connected in that kind of New York. The film was filmed in Texas
right,
for around 2.5 million bucks. And obviously it didn't have that kind of connection to the indie cinema world that was just barely kind of starting with
yeah.
and definitely wasn't in Texas yet. I don't think that
No,
right.
I thought like one of the things that was a lot of fun about it is that it's because it is an 80s movie.
Yeah,
You bounce back and forth between very serious scenes, and
yeah,
then like you'll cut to this scene where it's like two guys fighting basically because you need a fight scene
yeah,
here,
yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, backed by like I can't remember who they said it was that did the score, but I described it as like Eddie Van Halen style guitar. Like there's some of these fight scenes that just like no, it sounds like Eruption. It's just like double tapping and like the
Yeah, yeah,
whole
yeah.
time.
It was uh where is his name? Paul Loomis, who, as I said, he also was a composer of original songs for Barney in Outer Space in 99
That's
98,
right.
which
Yeah.
is he has a wild, small but wild career. I think oddly, like there's a lot of things where it's just like could they make this film like more mainstream and kind of add a new score. They've done that with restorations before where they're like, okay, this score, everybody hates the score and they do it.
Right.
Supposedly the director doesn't really like the score.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's such a film of the time
Mhm.
that if you change it, I don't know, then it just doesn't become, it's not that. And then other issues that any film from the late 80s, especially action films, have. If you change out, like, if you basically go, oh, I'm trying to update this film to
Right.
make it more widespread and more love, more widely acceptable,
Yeah.
then it kind of everything else falls apart.
Right. You're
Um,
gonna throw other things that
yeah,
seem dated into sharper relief
yeah,
because like the score and the color grading
yeah.
seem more modern.
Yeah. And like if
Yeah.
you change, I mean, do the right thing. If we're comparing Do the Right Thing, like if you change the
Yeah.
editing, like Spike Lee's editing in that film, to something more commercially friendly,
Yeah.
then I don't know what is that film. I mean, like it obviously I think it still stands up. The writing and everything like that is fantastic, and the music is great, but like it doesn't have the vibe that it needs to have. And I think that one thing that this film has is that the vibe. I don't know. I don't. That's like this is me, my film school experience. Because the vibe is right.
No, I mean
Yeah.
it's one of those movies that, like I said, I compared it a little bit to Rocky or to
Mhm.
Rambo because of the fact that it's like uh, a big conflict between these Vietnam vets and the local establishment in the small town.
Yeah.
But like, there's a lot of other like you could see parallels to you called it the anti-walking tall.
Yeah.
And they referenced another film, and I can't remember the name of it. The one about the CIA agent, the spook who something, and it was like a guy who
Yeah.
came back to his hometown to kind of like teach them resistance.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's
a black CIA or espionage, general espionage. I forget whether it's specifically CIA. I've heard of this film before. I
yeah,
sadly
yeah.
haven't seen it because now that they mentioned it, the spook, not who came in from the cold, but came into the hood, I think it was, or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically they come in. He comes in and then teaches the neighborhood to basically work against the powers that be,
Yeah.
to make it in the most generic way possible to describe the film.
I'm looking forward to this getting a wider release. I think it's going to be interesting because obviously things that came out on tape in the 80s, like that was a mainstream format,
Yeah.
and going direct to video wasn't the death sentence in 1989
Yeah.
that it would
Oh,
become
I'm
later.
sorry. Actually, it's the spook who sat by the door.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Um but but I think it's obvious that like this movie wanted and deserved a kind of a bigger release and a
Mhm.
more mainstream, kind of less like cloistered release. And
Yeah,
so, and obviously, it's still going to be a specialty film because it's a 40-year-old movie now.
yeah,
But I think that it's going to be really cool to see how people will react to the movie for the first time since 1989.
yeah,
It's a movie that did pretty well on YouTube when it was uploaded, like a VHS rip was uploaded during
yeah,
COVID.
yeah.
And so hopefully that means that they will have kind of an audience base built in,
Mhm.
and the movie is going to find, its kind of secondary audience.
Yeah,
We always talk about how like that's so hard to do nowadays, like because you don't have home video, so it's hard to find your audience if you don't make 20 million in theaters.
yeah.
And I'm hoping that because of the circumstances and the
Mhm.
like quasi lost media nature and the YouTube success and all that kind of stuff, I'm hoping that this finds its kind of
Yeah.
audience
I
when it like,
yeah, I'm hoping that basically, you have Sinners has come out. I mean, there's just so many there's a lot of um there's a lot of black cinema that has come out that with like all black characters, like the white characters are tertiary at best, directed everybody on set. It's fantastic. And this is one of those films back in 1989. There's the one white character you see on screen the most is the most racist white sheriff, out of, you know, Georgia, southern 60s, anti-civil rights era, central casting, done really well. I don't want to like mush it to saying
right,
it's
right.
like not, it's like, oh, he's just, central casting. But, and then everyone else in the film, I mean, I would say probably 95% of the screen time is black actors, of a very wide range of
Mhm.
dialogue of scenes. You have fight. It's not as something that Valerie talked about is like it's not a film that happens in inner city. It's not drug dealers. There's no that. It's just you have sharecroppers who run the gamut from well educated to a guy in 1966 Georgia who's a sharecropper. And like that is to think that that film came out in 1989 is and was an independent film and and like all these ands and it's just like yeah I think that this is also one of the I think this is the moment um that this is when this film kind of actually is available. I'm really hoping that this finally gets its due. Because yeah,
Yeah,
it's not art. It's not like a huge art film. It is not even what Van Peebles was doing at the same
right.
time. Um, but it is one of those like mainstream independent films. Again, like I think Sinners, I keep comparing to that in the way that it is so completely kind of not within the studio because Sinners literally is just like I'm just going to do my thing and you're going to pay for it and you're going to be happy with it because I make lots of money and
Yeah,
that's what he did. And I think that this film if a new version of this film came out today, like if they were released today, I think it would do really, really well. And so hopefully this re-release does the same.
yeah. Well, and again, like the like something that Valerie says in the
Yeah,
interview, but like you get a chance to see a new, or at least new, Steve James movie in 2025.
yeah,
Like he's so good in this. He
yeah,
has like real charisma and real leading man energy. There's a guy who obviously like he had some leading roles, but most of his career was supporting roles and stuntman stuff.
yeah,
And this movie really did right by him, and so, if nothing else, it's like it's worthwhile to like
yeah,
sit down and see this terrific performance by this kind of underrated actor who died very young.
yeah. And,
Uh,
and another, yeah, he died at 41. I think it was 2 years after this film,
yeah,
and or a couple years after this film. And yeah, it's very much like if I hopefully this does right by because I love these moments. I mean, John Travolta got a reboot and like, oh, he can act, like all of
Yeah.
these things. And then finally we get one for these action stars. Arnold Schwarzenegger got those. Basically, almost we've had like obviously Stallone started out and then kind of went in reverse, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And he went from wow, he can really act to what is Expendable 74 doing?
Yeah.
Like, but that's a different story. But it's great to see kind of a another big person who should have been a big action star or was during the time period was a big action star get kind of like, oh, he's not just a guy who can kick really well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we cut to the interview?
We're talking to Valerie Vance, who is the executive producer, and talks about the evolution of how this film came to be, which I really
Right.
love finding out that background. And then we're also talking to Michael J. Dennis, who is I'm sorry, yeah, Michael J. Dennis, who is he runs Reelblack on Reel Black on YouTube. Definitely check that out. He has conversations with like Dick Gregory and kind of other people within
Yeah.
Black cinema, and kind of talks about very much. If you're a fan of us, you'll be a fan of his, because he's kind of like lost cinema of 70s, 80s, and whatever. And I hope you enjoy it, because I really enjoyed the conversation. It like I said, there's about 45 minutes, I think, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, so I mean, kind of said this a little bit before, but the premise of our podcast started out as two former video store clerks that missed the nature of like finding lost gems and basically becoming evangelical about them. Russ wrote a book about Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah.
We're both kind of working on one about Hudson Hawk, like two films, that should have been bigger. And how did you get into finding this? This, I guess, first question is for Michael. Like, how did you get into finding this film, and what did you love about it that got you so motivated?
Brief aside, Harry Elfont and the Nancy, I think her name was. They were in my graduating class at NYU. But
Oh wow.
Oh my God!
I'll have to tell him you say hi. Yeah.
well, hey, look, everybody like disappears.
Yeah.
NYU takes credit for people when they have success.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they kind of like just forget about you. There's no
Yeah.
real alumni relations, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
oh, okay. So the story, and Val knows this. I mean, so it's Mike and Valerie Vance here, and we are in the process of screening Riverbend for the very first time in Los Angeles on October 14th, 2025. I don't know when people are going to see this or hear this, but you're certainly welcome to come out to the Aero Theatre in Santa Monica for that. But the story, I have a YouTube channel called Reelblack TV, and right before the pandemic, we kind of closed up shop of my brick and mortar screening series I ran for 16 seasons in Philadelphia. And part of that shift had to do with the growing number of people that were watching the channel. At the time we folded the event, we had about 400,000 subscribers. And they were all tuned to like consciousness raising content. And so I started taking the stuff that I've been showing brick and mortar and putting it on the YouTube channel, not thinking about rights or anything like that. It was just stuff that would have fallen between the cracks otherwise. And one of the movies that I included or uploaded in 2019 was Riverbend. It was a movie I had not really seen until so anyway, after 16 seasons of hosting a movie series in Philadelphia, I started shifting from brick and mortar over to YouTube. And one of the movies that I uploaded in 2019 was Riverbend. And not shortly after that, I got an email from, of all people, Sam Firstenberg, the director of the film. And it says, the header was like, I'm Sam Firstenberg, director of Riverbend. So immediately I'm thinking cease and desist,
Yeah.
But I open it up and it's like he's like, "Thank you. You're doing a great service to this film because it was financed and produced independently, and it needs all the attention it can get." And from there, we started a conversation because I'm always interested, like you guys, the story behind the story of a movie like Riverbend. And Riverbend's an interesting story. We can get into whether or not it was suppressed or banned or what have you. But it's a very interesting film because Black people take agency. Their characters have agency over their outcome. Most of the time, there's a white savior or a buddy, or there's no arc at all for the character.
Mhm.
So I started talking to Sam along with my partner Charles Woods, and a couple things started to happen. It was very serendipitous the way that this event occurred. So the first thing, it was Retro Fiend Radio put up a documentary, The Making of Riverbend, and it started getting a lot of traction. The same time we were doing our interviews, and around that same time, believe it or not, a 35 millimeter print of the movie showed up on eBay. And at the time, we were kind of flush, and I put a bid on it. And this is during COVID, so I won the print. And I'd never really been on 35 millimeter film before or anything like that. And it's coming from South Africa, and there's postage restrictions. So it literally took about 6 months for the film to arrive in this beat up box. And it stayed under my desk for another 8 months until I said, let me see what's on this. And it's sort of like going to Photomat. I don't know if you remember Photomat back in the day.
Yeah.
Without a projector, you don't know what's on the film until you get it back. This movie got scanned in a place called Cinespace in Boston, and they sent the files back, and they were scratched to hell. Every any imaginable scratch. It must have went through every grindhouse projector between New York and South Africa, this print. But we decided we could get it cleaned up. And so I reached out to Deaf Crocodile Pictures because they'd just done Solomon King, and they did a tremendous job with that restoration. And Craig Rogers over there and Dennis Bartok, they took it in their spare time to digitally clean up this print. In the process of, and then we scheduled a screening in Denton, Texas, which isn't that far from where the movie was shot. And we started advertising on YouTube that we're doing this premiere, and I guess that's where Valerie could pick it up. She's there.
I think you.
Valerie,
I think you may have to unmute yourself.
Oh, does she know how to do that?
She's got somebody with her.
So. Okay, great.
There you go. Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So I'm just having some background noise. Yep, go ahead.
No, Riverbend was created. My husband Samuel Vance and I, and he is now deceased. But we were traveling from Atlanta to California, and we just kept going into these little small southern towns. And it was just amazing to me to see, being a military kid, just to see, the outcome of what happened during the 60s. And so we started talking. So that's how it was actually created. As far as the towns being backwards, the outhouses, all of that.
Yeah.
And I was just totally amazed. So the script was finally written, and I was in Texas meeting with the Dales, with Troy Dale, and Troy Dale was very special to me because I'm telling you, Riverbend is a godsend. Even though it's so old and, it was forgotten for a minute. But it was, Troy actually was buying a company in Dallas. And I was working for that company in the maybe about a month, not even a month in this company. What happened? Hello?
Yep, you're still here.
Oh, okay.
No,
And so I was with this one company for about a month. Troy was going to buy into this company that I was working at. It was a talent agency. And so anyway, we just got to talking. And I said, I have some projects too. And he's like, really? So he said, well, why don't you bring me one so I can read it? And so I did. And we sat there and we got the proposal done for him really fast and precisely.
Yeah.
And actually, it was a beautiful thing. He loved it, and he put money into this film immediately. That's why I say godsend, because he didn't have to do this. He was investing in another company. So instead of investing in that company, he selected my and Vance's movie.
Yeah.
And so we went to the bank, and he came up with $2 million to film it.
Yeah.
And so we got it we finished it with $2.5 million.
Oh, wow.
But how did we first meet? That was the question.
Oh.
How did you and I meet, Val?
What, Troy?
No, me and you.
Oh, another godsend, because the Denton Film Festival, they were filming black films, and I met Michael at the film festival.
Yeah,
and so we got to talking, and actually Riverbend was being shown on YouTube. That's how I found out about it, because of my nephew Marcus Coleman. He called me up on my mother's birthday to say, guess what? Riverbend is on YouTube with Black Real Entertainment. So I was really, really excited. I turned it on, and there it was. And so I was, it was a wonderful thing. Like I say, everything happens for a reason. And with the climate in America now,
yeah.
There's so many things going on racially, and it really bothered me that Riverbend did not get shown the way it should have been shown.
Right.
There's a real, I was kind of surprised because, like, you watch the trailer, read about, what there is to read about the film. And I guess Valerie first, and then Michael, if you can answer this. There's a real a real innocence behind this film, and kind of a hopefulness that is the core. That, like, no, we're going to do these dramatic, radical acts. I mean, today it would be radical. They would have brought in the SWAT team, and in '66, when the film is based, like the hopefulness of the characters in the film. That the media will make the difference, the fact that the governor will step in. I mean, Georgia governors, I have done a documentary about the history of voter suppression in Georgia. And so I know a bit about Georgia governors during the 50s and 60s, and that they would step in, and especially that ending where everybody kind of comes together. I guess, Valerie, like, what... if you can say, like, I mean, like, if you know anything, like, what was the kind of inspiration to not make it either kind of a dark and gritty, like maybe a John Carpenter would make at the same era, like, why you kind of why it was a more of an inspirational film?
Yeah, I was telling Michael that yesterday. We talked, and I said, people, when they watch this film, it's not negative at all. It was actually about bringing people together in this town for atrocities that were being done to them in that town.
Yeah. And
for them to experience what Black people had experienced in that town. So truthfully, it was a movie meant to be a positive note. A few words were negative, of course. Mm-hmm. The N word, and but it reminded me also of what happened here in Georgia when the big riot started during the COVID crises. And people were just tired of what was going on in the city, and they just started rioting. So yeah, Riverbend was really made to enhance the thought waves of people who didn't necessarily live in that era, but who are feeling what maybe the Black people in that town felt. That's why the 3 Vietnam vets came into that small southern town. It's really the sheriff who was, he was the bad guy. But, he actually, Tony Frank, mimicked his own sheriff in his town. He was from Texas, and he said it was horrible.
Yeah.
So he mimicked the sheriff. So I just felt it was really important, to let everyone feel something as far as their inner selves and bringing people together as one.
Yeah, I mean that's proven.
Well,
we did the screening in Denton, Texas, and that was the response. It was like,
oh yeah, and
this could have happened
truthfully,
yesterday.
Denton, Texas. Can I just tell you this, Michael? Because I don't think I did. In Denton, Texas, they did the film festival. Okay, but the woman who was taking us around to introduce us to people, she said the Ku Klux Klan were very prevalent in Denton, Texas. And people actually came, they came into the town to see these people and film them and all this kind of stuff. Denton, Texas has a lot of Ku Klux Klan. Didn't know that at all. No clue.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I mean,
Yeah.
but the festival's great. So, I mean, there's
Right. And she was telling the stories, and I was like, whoa, that's really heavy duty. And especially that Riverbend was coming into play.
yeah.
It was just so special.
So we knew we had something after the first screening, except the movie was missing about 10 minutes. Somewhere along the line, somebody had physically cut out the love story with Margaret, Avery, and Steve James. And we had replaced with Sam Firstenberg's participation. It was basically we replaced a lot of those scenes with VHS footage, but it was like going from like really clear footage to like grainy stuff. You could follow the movie, but it was an incomplete restoration at that point. No sound work had been done or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But that was January 2024. And in March 2024, I happened to take my class. I teach at Temple University to a premiere of a movie called Naked Acts, which was also a restoration of a movie from the 80s. And I didn't know it was going to be the world premiere of the film, that Lightbox Cinema had something to do with financing the restoration. I just wanted to take I remember the film from when it was out at the store, when we had a video library, and I wanted my students to see it, and I filmed the Q&A, and there was a older couple sitting right next to me the whole time. And afterwards we struck up a conversation. It turned out I was sitting across from Dennis Douros and Amy Heller of Milestone Films. And they also run a nonprofit called missingmovies.org.
Yeah.
And they champion films that could get lost to time because of rights issues or neglect, studio neglect, so on and so forth. And I was telling him about Riverbend and our frustration. There was one print in the Library of Congress, but we would not have access to that without proving chain of title. And he said, look, I think we can find the negative for you. And that went through a whole bunch of due diligence processes. We made an agreement with Valerie. And at the end of the day, we had to act fast. Once the ink dried on the agreement with MGM Amazon, we literally had to go the same day and pick up all the elements from Iron Mountain. And in those elements were the interpositive, the internegative, the original sound mixes. So we had stems and a 35 millimeter print of the film, which is going to screen for the very first time ever. It's never been screened. This print was brand new at the Aero Theatre on October 14th, 2025.
Wow. I wish I could make it out there for that.
Well, we're going to do some East Coast.
I wish you could. You know, it was Margaret Avery was very, very sweet. She was a wonderful actor, and she shows her inner self as a black woman in that town, because her husband was the one who actually was shot in the town by going to the circuit judge.
Yeah.
It's a whole story, I'm telling you. So it's kind of touching on both levels. And then she has a little son who I personally felt it was important to have him be shown as a child, viewing what's happening in the town, what happened to his father, and to see what he could do for the kids later on in life during his period, because he was 14 years old. But see, it tells so many different stories. It's a love story. It's a compassionate story. You know, when it's dealing with the issues that went on in that town. So the soldiers, they were just in awe, because it was during the Martin Luther King era. And they really didn't know that much about Martin Luther King. They were learning. Mm-hmm. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
They were learning about Martin Luther King. So it was as though, I don't know, I just felt it was just so important that this film did come out. But it didn't come out the way I wanted to see it come out, or the way Vance obviously wanted to see it come out, because he was a Vietnam veteran who received the Purple Heart and Silver Star in Vietnam. So he would have been so proud that Michael, you know, pressed on and tried to get something good out of this film.
This might actually almost be kind of a better time to release to have the release than 1989. We're just getting over Reagan and and into Bush, the first Bush. But right now, I mean, again, as a person who I cover far right extremism, I was at the Unite the Right rally covering that. Like, I've seen what this world is. I've been down to Georgia. There's still towns like this. Like I thought the town that you filmed it in Texas, I was like, this looks like this town I've been in covering a Brian Kemp rally where I got screamed at about people from Atlanta coming up to steal TVs on the subway, basically on the MARTA line. Like it's wild, like how much a lot of things haven't changed. But Russ, you want to follow up?
Sorry,
I was going to say that this is a perfect time for this movie, because so much of our history is being erased, very intentionally. Mm-hmm. So, I talked to Charles Woods a lot, and he has a phrase he calls admission by omission. Mm-hmm. It's when it relates to Black stories on the screen. Sometimes what we don't get is an admission of by omission. So every audience that's had a chance to see this film responds pretty much the same way. It's like, wow, this is a powerful story. I knew about this. Why was this kept away from me? And so it's a double whammy in the sense that, just as there's threats to the African American Museum in DC and all kinds of history being erased, different projects here and there being censored, we're coming out with this in a very bold way. If you see the poster, we have the Confederate flag on fire next to the American flag, so we're making a strong statement in terms of where we're coming from with the story. But at the same time, the response from people that get a chance to see this is the same. It's like, wow, not much has changed now, has it?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the important thing. So much, if you really kind of, when you watch the news, you can't help but see that the same thing is going on in America. And, there are people who are trying so hard to make it better. If we could make this world a better place some kind of way to shock people with a film or reactions of actors who have really worked very hard in trying to show the positivity out of the film. For instance, like even I'm going to throw my nephew in because his name is Marcus Coleman. He is an activist, and he has worked so hard in helping people in Georgia and other places, not just Georgia, but LA. But he did the restoration of the Santa Monica as a family who lost all their land, and he was part of that to bring them funds. And he works with restoration, and he's working with other projects. But the reason I'm saying this is because he was 14 years old when we put him in there. He didn't have a speaking role. He had one, but they took it out. But anyway, the bottom line is it was just so important for him to see Riverbend in Denton, Texas, where people were, loving it. To include Steve James's daughter, she was just so proud of her father, and he passed of cancer.
Yeah.
So it's just this story encompasses so many different emotions. So, anyway, I'm finished.
Michael, one of the things I wanted to ask was, watching the film, it feels like it needs to be gritty. Like the film grain and the grit of the film and the color grading is so important. How hard is it to balance like getting the best possible restoration with the fact that it feels like it should look like a 1989 film?
Good question. Well, what we wanted to do was bring with the what Russ is talking about is the 6K restoration that we're in the process of doing, and we'll need your help. So follow us at reelblack.com, reelblack.com, or on Instagram at Reelblack Renaissance, so you can find out how you can support this restoration. But it just comes from the quality of the elements that you have, right? So if you just have a print, which we started out with, the most resolution you can pull from a release print is 2K, right? Original camera negative, that's the primary, that's the very first generation of the image as it was recorded by the cameras on the set. Unfortunately, we didn't have access to that, but we had the next generation down, which is the interpositive, which is also color timed, right? So when we went to do this new 6K restoration, the goal was to give it as much of a film look as possible, but to remove any artifacts that existed in the negative as much as possible. You'll see a few specks and speckles here and there, but for the most part, the directive between me and Sam and Austin, who has Real Revival, he did all those scanning and restoration for us. He's located in Pennsylvania, Real Revival. We couldn't have done it without him. With the color already timed, what we get is the best possible image for every scene, right? And what we noticed in the scan was that it leaned heavily towards green. So the color timing was primarily to reduce the amount of green in the image to bring it closer to a white balance, so to speak. And that had to be tweaked, scene by scene, and then bring out some of the night scenes because we didn't have access to the original negative. We couldn't do as much as we could if we did. Nowadays, the technology is ridiculous. You can do a lot when you have good material. And my understanding is from Austin is that this is some of the best material that he's worked with since he's been doing it. So I'm sure, if you look around the web or if you look at the Instagram, you'll see the difference between the VHS and the new restorations.
And the premieres of Riverbend, the reception was excellent. I mean, there were people who had tears. They were just so proud. So I don't know. Riverbend was like a little angel that came that came to us mentally on the road to LA from Atlanta.
So
and
did you gentlemen watch the screener, or have you seen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. So all right,
Yeah.
so we're on the same page then. I mean, it's shot on film.
Yeah, we were nominated for the Lone Star Award in Houston.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's shot on film, and there's nothing like it. I mean, you can look at a new Blu-ray or 4K, and unless it originated on film, you don't have the same type of grain structure, contrast ratios, and so on and so forth. So it's gonna look good no matter. It's never looked as good as it will wherever you see it. If you see it projected on film from this pristine print that we've recovered, or if you watch it on Blu-ray sometime in 2026 or beyond, it's the best. It's amazing that this movie was rescued and we're able to restore it.
I think.
Well, Michael, I have to say that my mother from heaven played a very big part of that. It was on her birthday that I saw it on YouTube and found out about Riverbend being shown. That's why I say it's a little godsend. But I mean, it's got to be restored, and I don't know where it's going to go from here.
One of the things that I found really interesting watching the movie is most kind of mainstream American films that focus on the Black experience are very urban. And this is a rural Black story. Do you feel like that almost lends to the urgency of getting it restored and getting it in front of people? Because it's presenting these stories that we don't see very often.
Exactly. I believe that as well.
I never thought about it that way. And I've been promoting Black film for 2 decades. You're right. We don't get to see this type of story very often, but I think what makes the film timeless and relevant is the fact that even though it was made in 1989, which is the same year as Do the Right Thing, year after Mississippi Burning, or around the same time as Mississippi Burning, and but the fact that Valerie and Sam chose to make it a period piece makes it a timeless effort, right? If this movie had addressed the same issues of police brutality and self-organization, and it was set in the 90s, I think it would be a very dated piece. But what's great about this one is that you can, because there's a time distance already in the making the film, and there's so much attention to the period detail, that you can immerse yourself and project into your imagination various things, but you get to see what's exciting to me. When I met Valerie, I'll shift gears a little bit because I want Valerie to tell you don't know who Valerie Vance is. You don't know who you're talking to. This woman was one half a power couple. And sometimes all we get are these relics. If Riverbend had been successful, there would have been a slew more productions from Vance. And unfortunately, powers that be, circumstances, what have you, prevented that. But Sam Vance, like she said, was a Purple Heart winner, or I shouldn't say honoree.
Recipient.
Recipient. You don't win a Purple Heart. But
no, you do not win that.
I guess I won, right? You don't win a Purple Heart, but and he wrote a book called The Courageous and the Proud, which to this day is considered one of the best books about the Black Vietnam experience. And when they met, they both worked in Hollywood, and I guess you decided to leave, right, to start your own productions.
I can't hardly hear you.
I guess you decided to leave in order to start your own production company.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, when we went to Texas, yes. But what I want to interject is that Julius Tennant, I know he plays a radical guy. Being in this small town, he was like, and what are we going to do? We're going to teach these country people how to take over a town for national attention, And he was just excellent. And then Alex was the other one. He was kind of like the mediator between Steve James and Julius Tennant. So that it just kind of brought that whole little family thing of the three soldiers together respectfully for each other.
Yeah, well, I mean, you also have to understand that Texas was a big center for independent filmmaking in the late 80s. So it brought together a lot of talent. I was talking to Alex Morris, who played Tony. I'm sorry, Butch, Lieutenant Butch in the film. And he said that when Riverbend came to Texas, it was everybody wanted in on that job. Everybody wanted the opportunity to be in an all-Black cast, primarily Black cast, independent production, financed independently in Texas. And it brought people from all corners of the state to audition. So what we get is the cream of the crop of Texas actors, and mixing with Hollywood as well, Margaret, Avery, and Steve James. But the Julius Tennant's going to be at the premiere. He's gone on to great success as an independent producer. Alex Morris will be there, and Debbie James, who is the daughter of Steve James, will be there.
And she's a singer. What is she, a singer? I met her in Denton, Texas. So she's pretty well known as well.
She sings backup for Enrique Iglesias. She tours the world.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Singer Debbie James.
So the screener that we saw is not fully restored. Is that the scan that you were talking about from your print, or where does that fall on the continuum?
Oh, well, I'd say it was at 80%. The sound and a few of the speckles were not removed, but that's pretty much the 6K scan, color corrected without a lot of dirt and dust removal. But I'd say it's 80% what you saw. We're going to do a little bit more in terms of that. We had discussions about doing a new mix of the soundtrack and different things like that, but we decided against it. We want people to experience the film the way that it was meant to be seen back in 1989, 1990. So we're not. I have one little issue with Sam. I'm trying to convince him not to cut a shot out of the film, but for the most part, it's director supervised and approved. So,
this is a weird question, and it probably won't matter to the audience, but just the captions that we got, is that part of the restoration, or is that something that Vimeo just threw on?
Oh, those must be Vimeo self-done captions. We do have, what's interesting, for those who are interested in getting the Blu-ray and they live outside the country, we're going to have subtitles on the Blu-ray. And the reason we're not going straight to 4K, and I know everybody who's listening is like, I want a 4K, is just the cost, involved. And we want as many people to get it as possible in the best possible quality. So anyway, we'll have subtitles because the film, even though it didn't necessarily make a big splash in theaters, it did sell well in the international markets, right? So in the Discovery, we located VHS copies in Spanish, French, and then of course we have the English, and there's a German dub version as well. So with AI, we're able to do auto captioning and then correct the misspellings or the vernacular things, So the Blu-ray will have not only English subtitles, but French, Spanish, and German.
Yeah, the one thing I was talking to Zach about is that because of accents, the like AI transcription, there's almost an irony to it. It was picking up all of the white characters just fine, but when the black characters spoke, it was coming up with a bunch of typos. And I was just like, man, this is not the movie for that.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But you enjoyed the film? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And had you seen it before, or
I hadn't. No, like I said, I've seen it on the shelf. I've seen the VHS box, but I'd never watched the film.
That's how I felt when I first we had it at the store I worked at, Video Library, and for whatever reason, it just never appealed to me. Nobody ever came back saying, "Hey, you got to check this out" or anything, until I met Charles Woods, who's my mentor. He's a film historian. He used to run a video store in Times Square called the 43rd Chamber. And when I first met him, he gave me a copy of it. And then when I found out later, we were going through a storage unit, he had 5 VHS copies in his collection of this movie. And I'm like, why that and The Outcast, those were his 2 shows. He's like, these have to make it to DVD at some point. Yeah. So so I asked him why do you have 5 of these? And he said, just watch it, will you? And when I did, I understood exactly why. I mean, this is a movie, it shows Black people empowering one another.
Yes.
The characters have agency, and it's about something that's still relevant to this day, which is race and police brutality. And
there's a part in Riverbend where Steve James is, he's talking to the soldiers in the town, the young guys, and he said, "I don't ever want to hear you use the N word ever. You are Black men. You are proud." And that just brought tears to my eyes. It was just so important that was relayed through the film, to these guys, because they were really tortured in that town by that sheriff. And Tony Frank played the sheriff. He couldn't have been a better hit sheriff, period. And but he explained how the sheriff in his town in Texas, actually, he said you couldn't even probably walk on the side of on the sidewalk with him. That's how bad the sheriff was in Tony Frank's life.
Yeah.
So
well, I'll say too, the monologue that you're talking about comes immediately after one of the sheriff's biggest scenes, the scene where he goes to the house and he's being held at gunpoint and he kind of backs out talking all the trash. And so it really, like, the importance of that monologue is really it's really emphasized by just seeing that guy drop the N-word 32 times in the scene before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
It's one thing I don't want to say I like the usage of the word, obviously, but within the film, it is used in the casual way that if you ever meet a genuine to their core racist, the way that Tony Frank plays the role, just the casual nature. It's not intended to hurt. It is just the way, like that speech in the church
it's the way he was born.
Yeah, the speech in the church.
The way he
was
taught.
Exactly. Yeah. Where he talks about my daddy, in the church where he's threatening the young man, where it's just like talking about a dead N-word, and it is just like that. It's somebody who's interviewed some of these people, You know, it is.
Oh, yeah.
It is like really one of the most real kind of things outside of like two films that I've seen and absolutely loved recently, Rebel Ridge and Sinners. I feel like this is their. I guess it's not old enough to be their grandfather, but it's like, you know, it's like their father in a lot of ways, where you have these real, genuine characters that they could exist in any town in the South, and kind of how it plays out, and also having like kind of that strong like, and not like crazy radical that would kind of like push out some people like Sam Quentin, which I love the name, by the way. Sam Quentin, his character is like walks that like perfect line of where it's just like, no, he's not like a complete crazy radical, whatever. It's just, you know, this is the way we have to do it, and that confidence and that his character exudes is just. It's just stunning. I mean, it's just he is fantastic. I've loved him as an actor in American, you know, all these different roles he's done.
Oh, yeah.
But like this, it
Truly.
is one of those. I'm like, wow, he actually. I mean, he's. You know, I want to say, obviously, you know, I only wish he was still around so we could be seeing some of his roles now.
He was our hero.
Yeah, no, he was fantastic.
Well, this was his first starring role.
Yeah,
You know, he
Yeah, it was his
Like
first
silent.
starring role, and I just couldn't believe he you know, he got sick, and but
yeah. So a
I
lot.
think he was very proud of this film.
Oh, most definitely. When you read articles, interviews with him at the time, you know, he one of them is from the New York Post or Daily News rather. It says from Tonto to hero in 10 years. You know, so people.
Yeah, and they
made
called it the Magnificent Seven,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of
and
people.
Answer to Mississippi Burning, and those are articles that I have, that I saved everything anyway.
Right.
But they all love this movie. That's what's
Yeah.
really amazing.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't know necessarily how he got the role, or Sam Firstenberg became attached to the movie Riverbend. Comes as a direct result of Steve James's death scene in the movie Avenging Force. Steve was constantly lobbying Canon Pictures for the opportunity to star in a movie. And at the time, the prevailing wisdom was that black doesn't sell overseas, and they needed a lot of pre-sales in order to do this, which is ironic because, you know, a lot of copies made it to South Africa, to Germany, to Greece, you know, to France, what have you.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a myth, you know, but you know, he died in such a horrible way in Avenging Force that he said, and as opposed to him being part of the Avenging Force, he gets killed along with his entire family. And he said, all right, Sam Firstenberg, I'll do this, but you owe me one. So when the script for Riverbend came around, that's when Sam Firstenberg got attached to the movie. And a lot of people will recognize
Yeah.
Steve James as the star of, or
I was surprised that it showed in Mombasa, Africa.
Wow.
I was just shocked that it was in the theaters.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know when it showed. I don't know how the print got to South Africa. I was talking to Chris Poggiali, who did the research. He's got a great book out called These Fist Break Bricks. And he did some research for us. And he said that basically at the time that Riverbend came out, American films were considered contraband in South Africa. Like, you know, so it literally got smuggled to South Africa. Somebody held on to it for 30 plus years. And then it came back across the ocean for us to rediscover.
Yeah. I mean, this film should probably be radical material in apartheid South Africa. So that is to hear that it existed, that somebody had a print, you know, was probably showing it somewhere in some guerrilla, you know, like some backroom theater.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Probably under a different name or something. Or I guess Riverbend would be fine. It's just kind of a safe name. But yeah, that's wild that it has that history. And what I guess like what does that Valerie, what is that because it's we do talk to a lot of people who, you know, like again, like Russ did a book on Josie and the Pussycats, which was supposed to be this big film, and then opening day, not really that much. And we talked to a lot of
Well, I
directors.
love Josie and the Pussycats. That was one. Those are my movies.
Yeah, no, like one of my favorite films is Oh Lucky Man, which is Lindsay Anderson film, and we talked to Malcolm McDowell, sadly off camera, and it was just a kind of an aside, but that's his favorite film that he's ever been in. And that film also, like when it came out on DVD, I bought 5 copies and gave them out to my friends. I did exactly what Charles did. And what does it feel like, I guess, to have like this build up to this premiere and to find out these things about, like, it aired in South Africa, it's got, you know, that there was this love for this film. It was kind of before, you know, now we have the internet. So we, like, you know, all these like guerrilla and cult films that exist. We kind of, you know, directors can find out and producers can find out that their film was loved if they like go on Reddit or something like that, and pretty easily. But like this, literally people might have been, you know, beat up if they had this film in their possession, but they still had it.
Yeah, it was Intercontinental Releasing. I will love them forever because they gave me the reel to show, well, really just to keep as a souvenir from the Houston Film Festival. And you know, it's the way people received Riverbend and the little premieres that we did have. I mean, I'm telling you, people had tears in their eyes, and they were just like, wow, this is really happening, you know. So it's just it's a heartfelt movie.
Yeah.
That I will never forget the experience.
I feel like it's correcting an injustice. You know, this film really should have reached more eyeballs when it came out. Instead, it got
They
relegated.
shouldn't have made it. Whoever tried to say that it was a radical film, it's not as radical as it's projected from movies I've seen before. Riverbend, like I said, was a heartfelt story of a town that was taken over by these ex-Vietnam vets who were for atrocities that happened in their town. And these people's, well, let me back up because I just messed up. But the thing about the 3 soldiers was that they wanted to take it over for national attention. You know, they wanted people to know that Martin Luther King was coming out with, you know, freedom for people and trying to bring about another thought wave as to how people are to be treated.
Well, that I totally agree.
And Margaret Avery, I love one part about her because there's a certain scene in the movie that she was with Vanessa, the young girl that was in the town that was raped by the sheriff. She told her she busted into they had arrested the sheriff, and so she busted into the little courthouse, and she was going to shoot that sheriff. But Margaret Avery, being the woman that she was, whose husband was shot and killed by that sheriff, she said, baby girl, don't be like him. You do not want to do that. It'll happen in time, you know, to show what he has done. But you don't want to be like him.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was just so important as a black woman whose husband had been killed because he took these papers to the circuit judge, you know, saying, you know, bottom line is, don't do that. You don't want to kill this man. Let him suffer. Let him see the changes in this town.
Yeah, there's a strong theme of justice versus revenge. And that's the razor's edge that holds all the tension in the story. You know, are these folks seeking justice, or do they want revenge? And that's the tension that we feel throughout the movie. And depending on what side of the fence you are when you're watching it, you're going to feel one way or the other. But it does resolve in a very hopeful way. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a well-rounded mind, you will be able to see the differences.
It's interesting when Zach and I were talking about the film. He kind of referred to it offhandedly as the anti-Walking Tall, and
the original one, not the not
the. But to me, I thought that was actually a really interesting observation, because Walking Tall, leaving aside the fact that the real life guy was a racist sheriff,
killed his wife. We've discovered now, but yes, anyway, but yeah,
but leaving that aside, it was at its core a revenge story. So it really is, like, as much as you can draw parallels between things like Walking Tall and Rambo with this film, like, this is at its core a more hopeful and, like, kind of heroic interpretation of that story.
Well, I think, I don't know how you feel about this, Valerie, but I feel like you said earlier, I mean, it's a thin line. I mean, you know, like, we have a clip on the channel where Dick Gregory's talking about the rights of Black folks in America and how we fought for education over liberation, and that none of us as Black Americans really know what it's like to be free, in a sense. And I think that this movie, if it has any precursors, and yes, there is a deep exploitation root, you know, like if you like watching beyond, you know, watching American Ninja movies, if you like the Burt Reynolds, you know, movies like Gator and White Lightning and things like that, you're gonna definitely feel some connection to the action that's in this movie, you know. But what's great about this movie is that, you know, for 90 minutes we get to imagine ourselves empowered. And what would that be like, you know? If we self-organize, it's something, again, a mission by omission. A lot of people watch this movie and they say, oh, that could never happen, you know. And
it could happen.
They miss the point. It's not necessarily whether or not you can have an armed rebellion in a small town in the United States. It's whether we can take what we've learned and use it to help one another. You know,
exactly.
I think the precursor to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Val, is a movie from 1973 called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Is that something you were?
I remember. I slightly remember that movie.
Okay, it's about a CIA agent who goes back to his neighborhood and teaches the local gang how to take over the community. So, you know, so yeah, there's lots of precursors. I mean, I don't want people to think, oh, this is all message. I think it's great that this movie had a message, especially now when so many movies are afraid to say anything except entertain. You know, and
because you know, and you see all these drug related movies and all of this stuff, and it's like, it's really, if you go into some of these homes, you will find out it's not like that totally, you know. And we don't want to be projected as drug dealers, street people, hoodlums, you know, prostitutes. That's not real in this world. I mean, we have it, just like you have it in the white world. But truthfully, I mean, Riverbend shows that there is it's a group of people who are in this small town who want to be proud. They worked hard. Let me tell you, those guys, it was really called Night of the Eagles. That's what the movie was entitled. But those guys will bring tears to your eyes because it was hot sun. They really did all their stunts.
Yeah.
You know, in trying to show the realness of what they were trying to project to the world. and it just, I could go on, but really, they worked really hard. And Fat Man, I don't know if you remember him in the movie, but Fat Man, he did pass away, but he was climbing those hills and doing all this stuff. He was just so proud. Those guys were truly proud to have done this movie. So
I've been studying black movies for more than half my life, and there's no other movie like Riverbend. I swear to you. I mean, maybe Spook Who Sat by the Door, but and certainly, we want everybody to come out. We have some surprises. I can't speak to who the special guests might be, but it's going to be a red carpet premiere, 35 years in the making, in Los Angeles. The movie never played Los Angeles until now. So I'm super duper proud to be able to bring that to the public, and Valerie's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Sam Firstenberg's going to be there. And like I said before, Margaret, Avery, Julius Tennant, Alex Morris, and Debbie James.
If you can, we've taken. We could keep talking because I so much to talk about this, but just for our podcast purposes, we will follow up with both of you, and talk more when we get closer, and especially when physical releases and stuff like that comes out, because that's kind of our bread and butter of what we love talking about.
Appreciate you. No, and I'm not trying to wrap it up for you.
No. But I do want you to make sure, just one final time, where can people get tickets? Where can people find out more information about Riverbend, about your projects?
Well, everything all the shows will be listed at riverbendrestored.com. riverbendrestored.com. So right now we have the October 14th date on the slate. That's going to be the premiere of the print. And then if you're on the East Coast in Pennsylvania, there's a great theater in Wind Gap, PA, called the Gap Theater, run by Harry Garrow, who's a good friend, and he's going to be premiering the print on Saturday, November 15th. So as we add dates, as we add more information about our fundraising, that will all be at riverbendrestored.com. And also there's a shop there if you want Riverbend gear. We have hats, mugs, and T-shirts, and we'll be adding things to that. And if you just want a postcard, just send me a note, and I'll happily send you some swag.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time, and thank you for sharing this movie.
Before we wrap,
sorry, Russ. Yeah, sorry.
You said you're crowdfunding for the restoration.
We will be. We haven't started it yet.
Do you know when that's coming up, or is that just something that you're still working on?
I'm a little anxious because it coincides with the lining up everything for LA, but the belief is that by the 14th of October we'll be in Kickstarter, and people will have an opportunity to preview pre-order, the Blu-ray. But I'm still, as we speak today in September, I'm still contemplating that, because what's going to happen when we go to LA, we're going to be recording audio commentaries with the cast and shooting more interview footage, and whether or not I have the opportunity to boil that down in a reasonable amount of time from, because we don't want to raise money too early and then have people upset at us, so, I just have to figure that out. But check riverbendrestored.com updates.
And I'd like to interject. Sharon, she's been listening, and so what did you feel about the movie?
Oh, I thought it was a great presentation, Valerie. I look forward to seeing the premiere.
Sharon has been, she's obviously my sister, so she's a military person. She worked for the Wilson Center for years.
Yeah.
And she also worked for, what is it in Ohio? Right, Dad.
Mm-hmm. I worked for
Yeah,
the Air Force. Mm-hmm.
yeah, for the Air Force. So she's got military background as well,
Mhm.
and it's just an interesting, like I said, because it was on my mom's birthday that I saw it and that was presented to me to check it out. It made it so special because I thought it was over. I'd gone on with my life, like and all of a sudden here's Riverbend again.
Yeah.
So,
That's
Yeah, it's
that's
serendipity.
yeah.
It truly is. I mean, it feels like. I mean, I can say the same thing when we did the interviews with Dick Gregory, and they reached millions of people through our channel and through different memes and things like that. I mean, that stuff circulates forever once it's out there. And I felt at the time I was just a conduit for the message. And I feel the same way about this whole journey. I mean, I'm constantly anting up and reinvesting in the project, but every time it feels like a challenge, something great happens, like being on the Emerald City video podcast. It's a little, it's kind of lonely when you feel like you're the only person who cares about it. But I know there's lots of Steve James fans out there. And the biggest compliment we got out of Denton, Texas was somebody said, I never would believe that in 2025 I would have the opportunity to see a Steve James movie I never knew about.
Yeah.
And he's great in it. And it delivers. I mean, it's balanced. It's a perfect balance of action and drama.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I thought that one of the things watching it that was really interesting and really fun was the way that you could bounce from a scene that was very serious and very grounded and very dramatic to like a fight scene with a Eddie Vedder style guitar solo in the background.
Yeah.
Well, Sam hates that, but he hates the music. But I think it adds to the charm personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the financial. It was the financials. It was a low budget film, so we could only go from A to B to C to D. Bottom line, to make the best of what we had.
Right, but Val, some of that stuff wasn't scripted. I mean, it was sort of like, we need some action here. You two guys, come here. We're gonna improvise.
I will say, the one of the funniest things, because this is it's always challenging when you have a movie like that, but there's that scene where Steve tells the sheriff, let's take this outside. Yeah. And it's with due respect to the gentleman playing the sheriff, there is no believable scenario where he holds his own against Steve James for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those scenes where you're just like, man, they did a good job of making this work, because it's a premise that just no, that shouldn't last more than 20 seconds.
We talk about that in the commentary. We have 2 commentary tracks on the Blu-ray, one with Sam and Debbie James, and then one, as we said, we're about to record. And so I asked Sam about that. It's and you'll have to buy the disc to find out how he feels about that scene, but it's a classic.
That just reads to me as the absolute, what's the phrase, the give me the confidence of a mediocre white man. The idea that the sheriff
and you see Steve's muscles bulging out.
Yeah.
Literally the only, because it's a dark alleyway, so it's literally the only thing you see is the glistening muscles. And then you see this pudgy middle-aged white guy.
The women,
yeah.
They couldn't wait to spray Steve with the sweat. May we spray you, Steve? He's like, sure.
Oh, that's
remember that story for the commentary.
Yeah.
That was really cute, because the girls were just going crazy over him. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. He was a bona fide movie star coming to Texas. Yeah, it's a great story.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's just incredible. Yeah, thank you.
And
Thanks
I want to, honestly, I will thank Troy Dale because he believed in this film and he went for it, And he hadn't done a lot, he hadn't produced a lot of films or anything like that. He was a very warm person. And so I thank him for that, for Riverbend. Yeah, for part of, bringing about the story.
Yeah.
The way I would love to have seen it, obviously, if we had a bigger budget, a larger budget. But
and Troy has a small role in the film as well. So.
Yeah, I was just saying that.
Yeah, he took a small role.
Yeah. I love the idea. I love finding out about, not only finding out about this film, watching it, and then having this conversation, finding out that because it doesn't read to me. There's a lot of indie film obviously happening in Austin and Texas, and you have with Linklater and in the 90s, and knowing that it's an indie film from Texas, which that town reads as Georgia, so much. So well chosen on the whoever did the location scouting, well played. It does not read as Texas. But I can't wait to listen to the commentaries and listening to everything that you're coming out with, because I love, if nothing else, I love, as an indie filmmaker myself, I love hearing the behind the scenes of okay, we got $2 million. We have to take over this entire town
for national attention. And and the police head of the police department, their radicalism, trying to figure out what are these people doing to this town,
Texas. We're in the middle in the 80s. I can't imagine it honestly would be too much different than it is now, but
exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So funny, but true.
My God. Well, thank you so much again.
Like
I said, we can just keep going, but I would edit at some point. But we will follow up with both of you when we get closer to new releases, and obviously reach out to us anytime you want to, either promote the new the DVD, or the Blu-ray, or any projects or anything that you want to talk about. We're happy. This is so much down our alley. I'm so happy that we're able to get this out of. I was just this looks really interesting. We got the press release from your guy, and I was just we usually just ask for, it's let's check it out, and then I read into it, and I'm oh, this is something we got to do.
Thank you so much to Valerie and Michael for joining us. I really appreciate that, or we really appreciate that. Like we said, check out the screening in LA. Check out the upcoming Kickstarter. The screening in Pennsylvania is in November. And be back here by noon on the 5th day for more Emerald City Video. And always remember to rewind your cassettes, especially if they cost you $100 on eBay.